This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. Congratulations to Bob Selbrid, K6ZZ of LaGrange, Kentucky, who has been appointed as the new ARRL Kentucky section manager. Congratulations, Bob. The Western Kentucky Parks on the Air meetup was a great success with 10 ham radio operators and a number of Cub Scouts who were there introduced to the wonderful world of ham radio. It was a very educational event with at least 5 different antennas set up and others were shown and discussed. Great job introducing the Cub Scouts to ham radio. The Stubblefield Amateur Radio Club also had a very successful Parks on the Air event at US 10172, the Salado Wildlife Refuge. Everyone had a great time. Kilo 4 Zulu Sierra Romeo. Zach was also able to get his Cheetah Rove on Parks on the Air, activating 17 unique parks, which were all new to him with a total of 285 contacts, all but 5 on CW, working 6 DXCC entities in 33 states. He drove 491 miles to accomplish this round trip, taking 23 hours and 43 minutes with 7 hours and 10 minutes of operating time. Congratulations, Zach. Glad to be one of the many in your log. Just when you marvel at Zach's amazing 17-park Rove, another amateur radio operator decided to challenge himself with a 26-park Rove in eastern Kentucky. And to add to the complexity factor to this challenge, he brought his non-ham radio wife and dog along for the journey. Well, how did it work out? Well, I cannot spoil the story nor do it justice. You just got to hear this tale directly from the mouth of the operator, Cliff, KQ4UUR, who is a professional podcaster and now with this video telling the story about his 26-park Rove on the same weekend as the CQ Worldwide contest, entering the world of ham radio YouTube with his YouTube channel, Cliff's Notes on Amateur Radio, KQ4UUR. You just gotta watch this epic story. Congratulations to N4SS of the Kentucky Contest Group, which consisted of AC6ZM, AJ4A, KJ4YLR, N4TY, ND4Y, W5MX, and WC4D, who operated the W5MX station for the CQ Worldwide DX Sideband contest. They had a total of 1,946 QSOs working 136 zones in 466 countries for a total of 3,288,726 total score. Congratulations. Great work. Get ready, an exercise is coming soon, and you can get the jump on it by getting your radios programmed to be able to communicate on XLX 721. For D-Star, program up DCS 721 Alpha. For DMR, program for Brandmeister Talk Group 3121232. And for C4FM, program Fusion YSF Reflector 51149. The exercise will be on November 20th. And a hint to think about the weather, since winter's coming right out your window. Don't be scared, be prepared, and program and test those radios out with that cross mode capability through the cross mode reflector system of XLX 721. November 2nd is the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club Simplex Net on 146.580 at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is always held the first Sunday of the month. They invite any licensed amateur radio operator to join them by checking in. Perhaps you cannot hear the net control station at your location. Well, no problem. Just listen in. Eventually you'll hear a station who will take your check-in, relay it into net control. The net starts by stations who can hear net control, and then each of those stations put out calls and take check-ins from stations who can hear them. Then the next set of check-ins will be asked to put out calls and take check-ins for the stations that hear them. After the net, you can then post who you're able to hear in your net report on the NKARCgroups.io page. This is an effective way to test your equipment and to learn how you can use your equipment if something happened while the repeaters were off the air. It is also a great training opportunity. A pro tip is to open your squelch on your radio. You'll be surprised at how many other signals you'll be able to hear in the noise that was squelched out. So the first Sunday night of the month at 6 p.m., tune that radio to 146.580 and join the net. A heads-up reminder, the Okian Amateur Radio Society meeting on November 4th will be held at the Laughlin Church of the Nazarene, 335 West Wyoming Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, due to the normal location being used for Election Day activity. Tim Lawrence, W4TWL, is looking for amateur radio operator volunteers to assist with communications for the Honor Run Half Marathon on November 9th, 2025. The run starts and ends at the Florence Yaw Water Tower. Volunteers need to report at 6 a.m., but they'll be finished by around 11 a.m. This is a great event to volunteer for, even if you've never done anything like this before. First of all, the proceeds go to funding the Honor Flight Cincinnati, where our veterans get to visit the various memorials in Washington, D.C. Usually this event yields enough donations to fill one plane load of veterans for the honor flight. Second, this is an easy, no-stress event to get your feet wet on working public service events. If you still are not comfortable with the idea, Tim can pair you up with someone who has done this event before at a station to help you gain experience for next year and other events. If you would like to give it a try, reach out to Tim, W4TWL, at W4TWL@yahoo.com. November 15th through the 17th is the ARRL November Sweepstakes, a great way to get your worked all states in one weekend. On November 17th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at 7 p.m. at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky, where election night will take place. Nominations were closed at the October meeting with no additional nominations, so the slate of officers will be President Todd Sayers, KY4TLS, Vice President Larry Silverman, WB2GYS, Secretary Rod Milligan, KY4ROD, Treasurer Tim Lawrence, W4TWL, and Director Greg Howard, KQ4RIE. After the business, then we will hear all about Mark, AI4BJ, and Brad, KQ4JEG, hiking and radio adventures in the Tetons firsthand from Mark with lots of photos. So come on out. On Tuesday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m., the Milford Amateur Radio Club will hold their annual holiday dinner get-together at the Eastgate Golden Corral, 4394 Glen Estee, Williamsville Road. On November 22nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the Ohio Aries Conference at the OSU COTC Warner Library Building, 219 University Drive in Newark, Ohio. Registration is necessary. For more information, go to aries.unioncountyohio.us. Would you like to learn more about WinLink? Well, come on out to the Amateur Radio Emergency Team of Northern Kentucky meeting on November 24th at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky, where at 7 p.m. the training team will continue their presentation on WinLink, this time talking about and demonstrating the use of WinLink over HF and VHF and using Internet-connected RMS gateway. They'll be setting up both HF and VHF antennas outdoors and have radios indoors sending and receiving messages to and from the attendee. They intend to incorporate and use some member-carried HT to communicate through local VHF digipeater, along with a lot of hands-on questions and answers. The business meeting will start at 5:30 for those interested in the business meeting, and the training team will start training at 7 p.m. Come learn all about WinLink. Elections for the Okian Amateur Radio Society will be held at the meeting on December 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Nominations are still open for you to nominate your favorite candidate. So far, current officers up for re-election are President Ryan, AC8UJ, Vice President Chessie, KD8OOB, Secretary Steve, N8PUP, Treasurer Kevin, K8 Zulu Oscar Zulu, and Director on a 3-year term of Bruce, N8BV. To nominate someone, reach out to one of the members of the nominating committee, which are Drew, K8JTL, Steve, K8TEY, or Andy, K3CAQ. December 15th is the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club annual Christmas dinner at 7 p.m. at the Golden Corral, 4770 Houston Road in Florence, Kentucky. The ARRL wants everyone to know that because of the government shutdown, the FCC is not issuing licenses, updating licenses, or issuing FRN numbers, but you can still take any amateur radio exam. Volunteer examiners will still give exam and issue certificates of successful completion to you. The ARRL will have all the successful exam information in queue to send to the FCC when they open their doors. If you do not have an FRN, and since the FCC cannot issue it, the VEs have been instructed on how to allow you to take the exam and get your successful completion so that when the FCC opens their doors, you will be able to get your FRN and work towards the FCC issuing your license. For more information, go to ARRL.org.
Repeater news.
Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
November 2nd is the 2025 MARC Hamfest at MAPS, which will feature over 100 vendor tables full of electronic gear of all sorts at the Military Aviation Preservation Society, 2260 International Parkway, North Canton, Ohio, just off I-77. For more information, go to w8np.net. On November 8th, the Grant Amateur Radio Club will once again hold the famous Georgetown Hamfest at the ABCAP building, 406 West Plum Street in Georgetown, Ohio. Lots of door prizes will be given away. An amateur radio exam session will be held by the Highland Amateur Radio Association, talking on the 146.73 repeater with a PL tone of 162.2. For more information, contact Ken, KD8FKU, at kd8fku@gmail.com. November 8th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time is the Hoosier Hills Hamfest at the Lawrence County 4-H Fairgrounds, 11625 U.S. Highway 50 West in Mitchell, Indiana. For more information, go to HoosierHillsHamfest.com. On December 6th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Fulton County Winter Hamfest at the Delta American Legion Post 373 at 5939 Ohio State Route 109 and County Road F in Delta, Ohio. For more information, go to k8bxq.org.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On November 1st at 10 a.m., the Crooked River Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio exam session at the Oak Hill Presbyterian Church, 2403 Ardwell Avenue in Akron, Ohio. No walk-ins. You must register by contacting N80QP at 330-786-8088. On November 2nd at 8:30 a.m., the Massillon Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio exam session at the MARC Hamfest at the MAPS Museum, 2260 International Parkway, North Canton, Ohio. For more information, call 330-832-0609. On November the 8th at 10 a.m., the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Society will host an amateur radio exam session at the Red Cross Building in Lexington, Kentucky. On November 17th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On December 13th, the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department in Georgetown, Kentucky. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: WB8VNH, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.